Buongiorno, buongiorno, and welcome to Jaxx Vane Live number 22. We are live 3 times a week on Twitch, working on a sailing game simulator prototype. So this week has been a week that I've been mostly concentrating on the graphic side. Yesterday I made a little bit of more improvement to the HDR, and I started to use a new PBR shader for my stuff. So there was an increase in the graphical appearance of the game that makes me quite pleased at the moment with the situation. I changed the way to control sails, which makes it way more complicated. So it's quite difficult to drive right now because of these experimentations that I'm doing. But today there's not gonna be much driving. Just quickly on the driving itself. Changed the way the sail trim works. So now you can see the blue bar. So I am now pretty much control the sheets that control the angle that the wing is allowed to have with the wind. And on a catamaran, basically this turns into a roll control. So your brain really needs to, if you want to play this and control everything and control helm, foils, and sails, your brain needs to basically split between these three things and understand what they're doing. So increasing, for example, the trim of the sail will make my boat roll that way, as you've seen right now. So you constantly have to tweak your sail trimming to try to keep the boat as flat as possible, basically, which with a ever so slightly rolling, heeling on a side. Whoops. And it's quite satisfying when you find that, you know, good trim that allows you to be stable and square away with the kind of course you're taking in that moment. But every little adjustment require a small adjustment in the foils, a small adjustment in the sail, and I'm thinking also how to. I mean, when you're driving like this, the roll is pretty obvious, right? You just look forward and control the roll. Just with small adjustment, you don't. It's not an high frequency. I think you can hear my keyboard, and you can see the blue line as I'm adjusting ever so slightly to find the right balance. Also with the foil, right? So they are not super high frequency adjustments, but they work. Good morning, Zio Yuri. As far as the our HDR and new PBR system is concerned, I also changed a little bit scenery to make it a little bit more similar to what we will actually have in the actual game. So it looks a little bit more like there are islands rather than than a lake with mountains surrounding us all the way. Just to notice a little bit of new things happening on the shader for the boat. The boat now have this soft reflections based on the PBR. You can see it very clearly over here, right, with this blue sort of they look like reflection. They're still cheating and using the skybox colors to achieve this effect, which for this kind of game is quite it's quite reasonable. It is a quite reasonable simplification, right? Yes, yeah. Of course, there is a Fresnel is a essential component of a PBR shader. So it's not only governing that kind of reflection, but also the way the light is actually reacting to the surface like this is also governed by the Fresnel component. So it's like calculated, I think, 3 times at least, depending on which vector we are analyzing. So yeah, we're moving forward. The plan for today is to keep moving on and add this bloom process, which again is a post process that allows us to better express the very high intensity lights in a scene. So these lights will start to create a sort of halo in the scene, the bloom. So the idea with the bloom, the way the bloom works is basically, I think it's like 4 steps. So in the first step, we do high pass over the scene. High pass means we take the scene and we render it, and we only let the pixels that are above a certain value that we decide of luminance pass through this high pass. Once we have this texture, we blur it, and to blur it, we will have to do 2 passes, one for the vertical blur and one for the horizontal blur and one for the vertical blur. Once we're done with that, we can re-add that blurred texture to the scene. So those are the passes that we need. The first thing that we need in order to do this is a shader that will allow us to do the high pass. So let's create that. All right, that's more like, okay, right. Okay, so the other problem that we have is too many things are passing here. So this should reduce the amount of pixels that go through. Yeah, I pass, let's see. Okay, so the sun goes through. We have a little bit of there. We have this buoy there. And on the boat, okay, we have just a little bit of the boat. So, all right, that's more what we expect. Good. Okay, so now we need to blur this thing. Right, okay. So just to, okay. It's quite a shitty blur, isn't it? Not really great blur. Right. Incredibly crappy. But it could be the tone mapper that is doing something weird with us. So we're fine. Okay. So once we're done with this, we can go to the tone mapper and add texture. Nothing happened. All right. That's a very angelical and the blurry was much better. All right, okay, so I wonder, Anti-Core, thank you very much for the follow. Yeah, I think, well, in theory I can hard code this, and Quanreal, thank you for the follow. In theory I can hard code this for now. Do I have a, I don't have inputs for this, so yeah, I can just tune it down a little bit. Obviously it's going to be more bloomy. Oh, okay, the good news is that they're both pretty bloomy. That's a good news. Troff, thank you very much for the follow. The truth is, this game is not gonna have it. You know, that's the thing. You know, all it's going to do is make the scene. Let me see what happens if the sun goes down and we. That's nice. I like the way it's playing with the. Let me see if I can stop it. Yeah, I like the way it's going over this this thing. So I think I can live with the hard coded for now, and yeah, and it's not that difficult if I want to set it up, but right. Okay, so blam blam. So we go boost just that. So I can go here and do, and it goes down. Does it? Yeah. Really want like a tiny amount, a tiny amount. Editor. Eventually this should also look at the exposure, because right now it's not reacting to exposure. I'm changing the exposure of the camera. And the eye pass should really look at that. Right. Food for thought. Next topic is, yeah, I don't have really cool stuff here to do. Okay, so what is the problem with this material texture? Is very annoying problem. So let's say that I go in my PBR shader, and let's say that I add a texture. Right. I think after almost 2 months, I'm starting to feel some burnout. I think this weekend is going to be probably my first weekend in 2 months that I'm going to stay away from code. Right, maybe, who knows. I don't like how it's fucking up the entire skybox though. Anyway, so that's the editor, right? Mad Triangle, thank you for the follow. So the problem, what is the problem? The problem is that I select this and now it's still showing me 2 textures, right? Instead of 3. Okay, if this works for real, we should be able to see that new texture appearing in the editor when I load the boat. Here it is, texture Antani. Yes, it works. But we're not done. Let's move to our next and last optional. Okay, that's the optional thing. All right, okay, so I can do 2 things here. I have to decide if I want to do this thing optional and keep the same shader or have 2 shaders. Looks to me like having 2 shaders is such a stupid way, especially because this shader is so, it's killing me. So I'm gonna tweak it often, and I can already see a situation where I use it here and there. So how this thing could look like, it could look, oh, texture, here we go. Okay. And then we can work out how I can avoid, for example, stuff that start with underscore from appearing. Right, so that's good. So the question is, not the question, the thing to do is to, first of all, make the editor magic, where the editor needs to understand, ignore basically everything that starts with underscore. So let's start with that. Okay, so in theory, we should be able not to see the underscore P. And it's gone. Right. Okay, so in theory, I can do the same thing with so they're both gone now. And so right now we're getting the behavior that, because the texture is always set to 0, so we never use the texture even if it's there. So if I change metallic, boom, it becomes metallic. Very cool. Okay. And if I put roughness to 1, it becomes rough. Okay. So now we have to make the magic happen in the Rust side. All right, so both texture. If I change roughness, nothing changes. So that's promising. Okay, that's promising. And if I go on the net, okay, and I change the value, it changes. Perfect. It's okay. And if I put the texture in the PBR, let me put the texture like this. It should be okay. It's not reacting anymore. So it looks like it's working, and it's all automagic working. What I need that I don't have is a way to remove this texture. All right, so let's add and remove texture from this. Right, so the net doesn't have, let's do it on, let's try to remove texture on the boat. So let's see if this thing, so bang, okay, perfect, but this needs to, so it works, but we need to adjust 1 second in the editor. It needs to, this one. Let's do it again. So boat texture 2, get rid of this, boom, perfect. Put it back in, and it works. Take it out, roughness 0, perfect. Metallic 1, boom, great. Very cool, it works, it works, it works, it works. And with this, we finished the stream for today, guys. I'm pretty tired. So if you watch this on YouTube, remember you can join me on Twitch live and interact live. You can follow there, subscribe there, or you can just watch on YouTube the recaps and highlights from every single stream. My next stream is going to be next Monday morning, 10 o'clock Central European time, and hopefully I will be going back to work on the physics of the boat. So have a good weekend and ciao ciao.